don't win, don't give us the bird. Don't give us your stink eye. We try our best and we're successful. Come watch our show. Bet with the sponsors. It's time to start. Enjoy the show.
Well, a very good day to one and all. This is Betting Weekly Live. You're with myself, Dan Roebuck, and alongside me, as you can see, Lewis Jones. We are going to be talking soccer over the course of the next half hour or so. We've got a big game in the Premier League as West Ham host Newcastle. Also fixtures in Serie A and La Liga to talk about. And we'll have a sneak peek ahead potentially to the Champions League as well. We'll see how we go. Make sure that you get involved as well. Get your comments in if you fancy anything on this Monday. We'll be glad to let everybody know. And of course, you can tell us what you think of our particular selections. Don't forget the newsletter as well. Lots of exciting things coming your way with the newsletter. bettingweeklystudios.com. If you are not signed up, lots of exclusive content coming your way. Lewis, how was your betting weekend? How are you?
Yes, doing well. Dan, another crazy weekend, very busy. The day job covering Liverpool game on the Saturday, which got a bit tasty at half time, didn't it? No one saw that coming. Southampton managed to somehow get in front in that game, and Liverpool managed to respond. But that was getting a tad. I'm guessing the Arsenal backers like me out there were getting a little bit excited. But we need to move on from that now, I think. And then on Sunday, I was at Tottenham Stadium for the Tottenham versus Bournemouth game, which was an excellent match to watch. I was on Bournemouth, unfortunately, so it didn't end well. But I thought Bournemouth were excellent again. Spurs got out of jail there, and I would be fading them for the foreseeable future. The atmosphere wasn't great inside the stadium, especially when it went 2-0 down, started to turn a little bit. And then did they create much really to get back in the match? I didn't think so. It was more of the an overhit cross that looped over Kepa, and then Kepa had what I would define as a bit of a brain fart, didn't he, coming out and making a challenge when it was unnecessary too, and that sort of scuppered Bournemouth. They're a little bit inexperienced, I think, at seeing out these games, which is a problem for them. But the more takeout from that game was the fact that Tottenham just don't. I know they've got returning players. Van der Ven came back, and he's going to make a big difference. But there's just something about this Tottenham team at the moment under Ange that have forgotten how to play Ange ball. I think this is they've stopped playing it, and once the manager can't get his message across any more to the players, or if they stop listening, only ends one way, unfortunately. So I can't. They've got a really big game on Thursday, haven't they? But I would with the crowd just the way it was on Sunday. Yeah, there's going to be a tough ask for them to turn that one around, I think.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. I mean, RZ really should have scored more in that first leg. They didn't. It's going to be interesting. It's the game to save Angie's job, I think. Welcome in, one and all. Rick Haley's with us at Morning All. That was a tough weekend of betting around Europe. Yeah, it was a little bit, I think, for most of us. Byron says, morning, Dan. And Lewis Ming says, hi, everyone. Results seem very random at the moment in all competitions. Paul says, morning, Dan and Lewis. What else have we got here? Morning to Paul as well. The MJ says, morning, gents. Taking the dog for a walk, and you help the 5.5 miles go much quicker. That's a Roy Keane-esque dog walk, isn't it? That Craig must have the fittest dog around. It's
a dog marathon, isn't it?
It is a dog marathon. Yeah, it's not a walk. Byron says, Paul, agree with Rick. Work hard for 2 days, broke even. Live betting saved me from a ton of draws. We've got some stats in from our friends at Bet Rivers regarding some sizable bets over the course of the weekend. I'll just run one or two past Lewis as we talk our way through it. This was an interesting one. $35,000 play on Brighton on the double chance at minus 556. Very, very short. Well, that one got over the line. Obviously, that late goal, but if it was double chance, it wasn't easy. Chelsea versus Leicester over 3 Asian total was a loss, $31,000. Now, here's an interesting one. $20,000, Lewis, on Liverpool on the money line at minus 121 against Southampton. Now, I'm presuming that was live, and that was when Southampton were leading. You were covering the game. Did it look like Southampton might get over the line? Obviously, decisions went in Liverpool's way, didn't they?
Yeah. Did they look like at any point they were going to win the game? No, I don't. I think there was a an inevitability about really the second half. Just having watched Southampton play this season, if it was any other team, probably in the division, maybe barring Leicester, half a chance I think of seeing that one through. But once Liverpool got the first goal and it was attacking the Kop, it was one-way traffic, and you sort of smelt it that the comeback was coming. So I can imagine a lot of live in play bettors who took that line. Yeah, that would have been a smart play, but any other team apart from Southampton in that situation, I would have stayed clear of Liverpool, because they've been very inconsistent lately, just with the way they're sort of constructing attacks, I think, and they're not firing all cylinders. Looked very fatigued to me. They played a lot of football, no break really, so it's going to catch up with them at some point. Is it going to catch up with them over the next week or so? In a very big week for them, 2 huge games coming up from back to back. They're going to have to really dig deep and find something from somewhere to go again on these 2 games. And I would be a little bit negative on their chances actually over these next 2 games coming up, just with how many matches they've played over the last, we're going back towards December now, aren't we? It's been a relentless schedule for them, and there's just signs to suggest that they're sort of starting to feel it, I think.
Yeah, we've got more from Lewis when it comes to Liverpool right at the end of the show, so stay with us because it's an interesting little topic of conversation. City $20,000 play on the money line against Forest. That was a loser, obviously, and Salah to score at -172. Well, it's a standing dish at the minute at 19,000. I mean, a $19,000 play. He either scores or assists. It's just incredible. I mean, I think there was a little bit of a conversation at the start of the season and with a contract situation whether he was up for it, but he's having a record-breaking campaign, Lewis. Unbelievable figures.
Yeah, the numbers are absolutely insane, aren't they? It's a testament to him, how he keeps himself in that level of physicality that he brings to football matches, and how just relentless he is in front of goal. He's amazing to watch. But can he sustain it throughout the whole season, these levels? It's all about getting ahead of a curve, isn't it, in betting? Yep. And I just think with Salah at the moment, there has been signs in the past 2 or 3 games where opposition fullbacks have got the better of him in one-on-one duels, and he's been a little less efficient in the final third. So I would just keep that. Nuno Mendes had him absolutely tied up in the first leg. It was non-existent. So I would just, if you're looking to sort of jump on a Salah train at the moment, I would just row back a little bit, just because he might be feeling it more than this fatigue factor might just be hitting him. But in terms of his output in front of goal this season, yeah, he's carrying this Liverpool team to some special places, I think. But yeah, it's all about being ahead of this curve, and I can see maybe a downturn in those numbers just between now and the end of the season.
Yeah, we keep thinking about regression with Salah, but it doesn't happen. But you never know; it's got to at some stage, doesn't it? Really. Byron says yes, it was live. It was the Liverpool game. I took it -120 and hammered it. On the Premier League show, Nigel and Jack opposite ends of the opinion when it comes to the West Ham game. Paul says he's going to go with Nigel. But we've got a couple of Team Jacks as well. JG says, I believe in Jack. And Byron says, Team Nigel for me as well. Ming says, Newcastle surely a fade today with the League Cup final at the weekend. And MJ says, he's a Great Dane. Talking about the dog here, love Great Danes. If he doesn't get the miles, he will go insane. Duncan says, afternoon, early start. It's an early start if you're in Europe, but not if you're in the States, Duncan. But I take your point. Yeah, we've got spring forward in the States for the next 3 weeks. So we're slightly early on our European schedule here. Before we get into today's picks, and we've got some selections in all the games for you tonight, all the big games in England, in Italy and in Spain. Just a very quick look, Lewis. We mentioned it briefly. We were talking about Bournemouth in their game against Spurs and how they were a little bit unlucky in their match against Brighton as well. When it comes to top 4 and top 6, we were just talking off air. I still think Forest at +110 at a bit of value here. They've only got Chelsea to play at home with the top 6, and you probably make them favourites to win that particular game. Chelsea themselves are -139, are a bit of a fade for me. I mean, they've still got to play Liverpool at home and Arsenal away, as well as Forest. City -200, Brighton +700, Newcastle +275. Are they a fade? Any views on top 4, top 6 that you might want to steer our viewers and listeners to?
Well, it's interesting regarding Manchester City this month, because we're expecting some news, aren't we, on the charges? So that's going to have a huge effect on the betting markets if there is a points deduction coming. So I would be very, very very keen to stay clear of Manchester City at any of those prices, because there's been no sign or leaks or any sort of noise about how this is going to go, and it could go either way. So I would stay clear of Manchester City, a team I like at those prices. Still, at Bournemouth, I know they don't get the results that their performances merit, but they're a brilliantly coached team under Iraola, and I love the way they go about it. And I think this is more probably heart than head, really, for this, but I would love to see them in Europe next season in the Champions League playing that style of football. I think they could give teams lots of wobbles on Europe if they can sustain that style of football. I just love the way they go about it, and their underlying data has them, all the expected points models that I use, that has them in the top 4 already. I think third in some cases. So that's how good their process is, and they showed it again at Spurs. I thought they were much the better team. The assist for Tavernier's goal from Kirkes was just out of this world. I thought I was sat about 20 yards away from it in the press box, and to see that level of an assist up close was something special. And he played very well again, Kirkes. They've got some really great players that are just developing under Iraola. And yeah, Bournemouth are a team that I really, really like, and I get sucked into all the time from a betting point of view, probably to my detriment, really. But I would like to see them see the job through, and that price, that's the one that sort of jumps off the page to me. But again, I'm a little bit of an Iraola groupie, so maybe it's too much heart over head. But I love the way they play, and I would love to see them see the job through, because there's a good chance that he might get snapped up anyway in the summer by a club that are looking to go down his route. I mean, Spurs, if they decide that Postecoglou's not the man for him long term, the obvious one is Iraola, isn't it? If he would fancy that. If Bournemouth don't make Champions League, that makes sense to me. So yeah, Bournemouth for me at those prices. But yeah, it's a very open race, and there's not much between all those teams. A very condensed Premier League this season in that part of the table. So yeah, it's going to be an exciting end to the season, I think, for that race. Yeah.
Definitely. I mean, we've got 10 games left generally, and we've got 5 points between 4th and 9th. So it's going to be an intriguing battle. There's no doubt about that. Paul says, yeah, I don't remember what's a possible reason for City to get points reduction. Well, it's these charges that relate to, I don't know, is it overspending or just spending in the wrong areas? We don't really want to get into it.
Yeah, let's not go there. I'd need some notes if I didn't want to get the lawyers involved, I think. So yeah, let's just say the charges are there for misdemeanors off the field.
Just from a footballing point of view, I don't think they offered too much against Forest. Forest is a bit of a scrappy game from a footballing point of view. And Lewis, you put us onto this right at the start of the season. They're a fade, and forget about the points. If that's affecting the way they play, it might be, it might not be. But just footballing reasons, I think they're once a fade. Ming makes a good point. Brighton have momentum. They're top of the form tables at the minute. They've won their last 4. I think Brighton have started to play a different way. They're having much less possession than they had earlier this season, and they're getting results with it.
Yeah, I'm on them for the FA Cup at quite a big price. So I'm looking forward to their end of the season here, because they've hit form at the right time. They are winning games, small margins at the moment. They're not overly. I think they were a very tight game against Fulham at the weekend that went their way. Just might be a bit of variance heading their way at the moment. That might revert back to type eventually. But the front 4, really exciting, I think. Minter, Matoma, Ruta, Pedro, then you bring on Welbeck into the mix as well. They've got a good balance to that team. He's worked out a system now, Herzler, and he's not overcomplicating matters with those sort of players. And I think internally they want to get. They were hoping for Europe this year. The way they spent in the summer, big net spend. I think it was the most of any team in the Premier League. So I think Tony Bloom was expecting them to be challenging for these spots. So they'll be going full throttle, I think, in the FA Cup and across the league for the remainder of the season for sure.
Yeah, still got Liverpool at home, still got City away, Brighton incidentally. Going to be a fascinating race, no doubt about that. What have we got on the comments here? Yeah, Ming talking about how many points. We don't know about that, I'm sure. Let's get into the first preview in terms of what we've got for you tonight. I mentioned the fact that Jack and Nigel, very different opinions. You want to go back to the Premier League show, you're more than welcome to hear why. Jack thinks Newcastle are a bet and Nigel thinks West Ham are a bet here. I'm amazed that we haven't seen a bit of money for West Ham here, Lewis. They're plus 230. They've drifted, in fact. Newcastle plus 120 here. The tie is plus 240 for a whole manner of reasons. I mean, West Ham, maybe for the first time this season, Lewis, have got a little bit of momentum. They've won their last 2, and we know that Newcastle, with that League Cup game coming up, League Cup final coming up at the weekend, with Gordon out suspended, with Lewis Hall out for the season, to me, it's difficult to make a case for Newcastle here. Which side are you on? Are you on Team Nigel or Team Jack, or is there a new one, Team Lewis, and that's the draw? What do we like?
No, I mean, with Team Nigel, I don't really have to add anything there to your case you made, Dan. You've made every single point that I want to make about how this market is shaped, and it's skewed far too towards Newcastle, I think. And West Ham I think they're a great bet here. It's quite a challenging situation when one of your best bets runs on the Monday night of the weekend, when you've sort of done all your research on the Thursday and Friday, and you have to wait till Monday night for probably one of your strongest fancies to run. And it's running here, and I really like West Ham with the plus 2.5 Asian lines start here at -110. So again, yeah, anything pro West Ham, however inclined you are in terms of your betting, I would definitely be looking at West Ham. And in that case, with this bet, we only make money. We only lose our stake if Newcastle win. So we basically got half stakes on West Ham double chance and half stakes on the draw no bet. And yeah, I think there's big factors here that haven't been accounted for by the market regarding Newcastle. That's making that price shorter than it really should be. I think because this is the two reasons for me. The first reason is Anthony Gordon and Lewis Hall both missing. I think that's a huge miss for the way that they construct all of their attacks, Newcastle, and that's seen through their sort of data in the build-up play. They're very heavily reliant on that left flank, and there's a data source or a data entry. So their shot ending open play pass sequence involvement. So this is basically. I know. Here we go. Nigel's going to love this one. Here, yeah. So sort of basically, it's a metric which rates how sort of creative a player is in build-up. And Gordon is top of that list for Newcastle, and Hall is fourth. So I think they're going to lose a lot of creative outlet down that left-hand side. They're likely to bring I think Livramento is going to have to come over to the left. Trippier's probably going to have to play on the right, who's, I think, is an accident waiting to happen as his years advance, I think. And Harvey Barnes, Joe Willock probably coming on the left wing. Good players, but I think it's a downgrade on Gordon. But I do think that the main reason I think this Newcastle price is too short is the fact that I'm always looking to take on a team in their game before a cup final for many reasons, really. And the reason, just regarding players' motivation or anything, their mindsets, I think it's going to have an effect on them during this match, whether that's just dropping their intensity levels maybe 2 or 3% in order to maybe prevent themselves from getting injured.
Well, this is it. If you've seen one of your teammates just get injured the last game in Lewis Hall, who's missing this season, it's just in your mind fresh as well, isn't it? You know? Yeah,
and these sort of marginal... These 2-3% in Premier League level, elite level, are huge, and I think if Newcastle even drop it by that much, then that gives a certain edge to West Ham. And Eddie Howe can talk as much as he wants about complete focus being on this game, but I'm absolutely certain that these players will have their eyes on Sunday's date with Wembley with Liverpool. It's a huge game for the city and for the players, and just got some evidence to support this. Always like to support it with some data. These theories, and I've had a look at the last 21 clubs that sort of aren't used to making cup finals. So this is not Arsenal, not Liverpool, not Man United, not Man City, not Chelsea. So I looked at the last 21 teams to make a domestic cup final, and I wanted to have a look at their final result before the cup final. So the spot that Newcastle are in tonight, and of those 21 matches, 13 of those teams suffered a defeat. So that's a 62% strike rate. And I know 21 matches isn't really a big sample size, but what helped me to convince me that there's, I think, something in this theory is some of those results in isolation, which indicate that a team are dropping their levels massively. So we're just looking at some of the results here. Watford lost 4-1 at home to West Ham before the 2019 FA Cup final. Crystal Palace lost 4-1 away at Southampton before the 2016 FA Cup final. And Cardiff lost 3-0 to Ipswich before the 2012 League Cup final. So they're just three examples of teams probably going in as favourites in those matchups, and they ended up getting hammered. So sometimes these trends can be quite misleading, can't they? But when you attach some sort of substance and logic to one like we can here, I think we can use that when sort of pricing up a team like Newcastle in this situation. So I don't think that's been factored into the market at all. So very happy to row in with West Ham here. They've been last two games, Graham Potter seemed to have found a formula, hasn't he, with the 3-5-2, nullified Arsenal pretty well in that game at the Emirates, and then they coasted past Leicester. It just gets Jared Bowen and Mohamed Kudus as well. They're sort of playing central strikers as well, and I think that suits them. They've never really played there as a duo, but quite excited to see what those two could do in the front line. And I think momentum probably behind West Ham here, bit of confidence. Very happy with the way that they're looking out of possession as well. So yeah, I just think with that what's coming on the horizon for Newcastle has not been factored into the market whatsoever, I don't think, and they're far too short. And I'll be all over. I'm all over West Ham this evening.
Good stuff. We've got another bet from Lewis coming in this game as well. Let's just take a look at one or two of the comments we've got here. Jazzy says West Ham dominated the reverse fixture of this year where they won it. Can't remember if them dominated or not. They're about 6-1 to win up there. Where they scuppered so many bets that night. That was a Monday night. Newcastle were backed off the boards that night. Everyone did their money. Hopefully, Jazzy, you didn't. Jimmy says, yeah, but West Ham bad. Ian says, Isak, anytime goal scorer. He's come off 1 or 2 games, hasn't he, recently? I'm not 100% if he is 100%.
Wait for team news would be my advice there. Wait for team news.
Yeah. Effie says, makes no sense for Newcastle to overlook this game, considering what's on the line money-wise. Well, I mean, they're going for the Champions League as well, I guess. What else we got? Betting Weekly Studios, which is Nigel, says the way that I'm running this season in the EPL is probably going to be a draw. Steve has been on and says West Ham draw, no bet. Ken says Bowen shot on target, the only player that's going to play on West Ham. Reese reckons even the Newcastle players will have the cup final on the back of their minds going into duels and challenges and so on, as Lewis was suggesting there as well. Effie says cup should be second priority for Newcastle. Obviously, they're in the mix for the Champions League qualification, as we mentioned here. What else have we got here? Yeah, Ken says Newcastle fighting for a Champions League spot. And Effie says it's not the FA Cup. Losing 100 million euros makes no sense. What else we got? Paul says, let's not talk about Leeds. Yeah, Leeds falling apart again as the song goes. James Mitchell says West Ham. The selection here. So look, we've mentioned we like West Ham when it comes to that quarter ball handicap, which is minus 110 at the moment, something like that. Lewis, people talking about Jarrod Bowen if plus 265 anytime there. Isak is plus 135. We're not 100% certain he's going to start. He might start. He might not last the game. You've got a little prop bet that potentially, a little bet builder maybe that you can throw us our way for this one, Lewis. What you come up with?
Yeah, it's in the fouls market, actually. It's quite a rogue market to play in, but I love playing these prop markets because I love, in terms of matchups, I think you can get a lot of value when there's a perfect matchup that is not factored into the market. So the bet on my radar here is Thomas Souček and Edson Alvarez both to make over 1.5 fouls each, and you do that same game parlay, you get plus 160. So does seem quite a short price just on the face of it for a lot to happen. If I mean 4 fouls is quite a lot, but this is based on the all down to the data, which is telling me Newcastle central midfielders in terms of fouls drawn. So Souček and Alvarez are just in the firing line here for making lots of fouls in this game, because Newcastle always like to sort of engage aggressively in midfield with Bruno Guimaraes, Joe Linton, Sandro Tonali, all very sort of combative and heavy foul involvements numbers. They very, very high levels, and especially Bruno Guimaraes. He's averaged a whopping 3.43 fouls drawn per 90 this season. So he's won 89 fouls in the Premier League this season, and that's 31 more than any other player in the Premier League, which is an astounding figure. And we're in March now, aren't we? So 3.43 per game is, and he's played more or less every week, is extraordinary numbers for a player to be getting fouled that much. So I think he's just got the perfect mix of being very quick to avoid challenges, but also initiating the contact as well and going down quite easily, I would say.
He's clever like that, isn't he?
He is, and these are the type of players that I like to concentrate on really in these fouls markets. These ones that can sort of lure the referee into making a decision. But he's also flanked by Tonali, who's working at 1.9 fouls drawn per 90 this season, and Joe Linton at 1.22, who we know is a very aggressive player, very likes to get involved in the play. So always interested in opposition central midfielders making fouls against Newcastle. So if you look at the central pairing of Baleba and Hinchelwood for Brighton in their last game, they made 2 fouls each against this Newcastle midfield. McAllister and Szoboszlai made 7 between them when Liverpool played Newcastle. And I just think we just got a great matchup here with Alvarez and Souček. Very, as I mentioned, very aggressive players, like to make fouls. And this is why I'm interested in taking what I would deem quite a short price for this type of bet, is because Alvarez has made 18 fouls in his last 6 starts under Graham Potter. So he's cleared the over 1.5 line in 5 of those 6 starts. And Souček has made 12 in his last 7 starts. So he's made 2 or more in 5 of the 7 as well. So those sort of numbers is what sort of convinced me to get involved with this bet tonight. as the pair have also played 6 times under Potter, and this bet would have landed in 4 of those games. So small sample size, of course, but I just think once you've got the likes of Guimaraes and Tonali in opposition, I do think it's worth a stab this plus 160. And it's already shortened actually in the last 24 hours. So there's been a little bit of money for it. And I know that over 1.5 line sounds a lot for both of them to hit, but just the data is just absolute screaming. This needs to be backed.
So stylistically, it's a really good match. Watch out for those two in a parlay in the fouls market, which should be available. I know the cards market can be in certain states not available, but just looking at the fouls, I think they're available in a number of states, if not all. So just check that on the Bet Rivers lines when it comes to those fouls. Just remind us the 2 players again over 1.5 are.
Yeah, Thomas Souček and Edson Alvarez.
Alvarez and Souček, we're looking for over 1.5 fouls. There's a little parlay when it comes to the game tonight. And when it comes to West Ham getting a positive result, it's the quarter ball line that we like, Lewis?
Yes, very much. I'd like to get the draw sort of on my side, rather, so I'm not completely doing my money if it ends in a draw. So, yeah, no, I think that's more than fair, that price. I think Newcastle, too short.
Brilliant analysis from Lewis on the Premier League game tonight, West Ham versus Newcastle, giving you a couple of plays there. We will talk our way through the Italian and the Spanish games as well. Serie A action tonight, as you can see. In fact, just before I do that, I'll just let you know where the money's gone actually for that West Ham game. 82% of the money, 85% of the tickets have come on Newcastle, and 70% of the money and the tickets on the overs there, which is a bit of a surprise, but that's the way the market's moved as well. We've had a $1,700 play on over 3.5 total corners. If you want to follow the money, it's short at minus 227. And West Ham, $500 over 2.5. No, over 3.5. The line's moved. It was 217, minus 217. So over corners is being bet if you want to follow where the money's been going in that West Ham game. Let's get to Lazio against Udinese here. Lazio can go back into the top 4 with a win. They're favourites at minus 148. There's been nibbles of support for the capital club. Udinese are plus 430 now. Lazio have won the last 2 games, but both very late on. 98th minute winners beat Milan and Victoria Plzeň, the latter in the Europa League. And they are on course to return to the Champions League if they can finish in the top 4. And a win here will see them finish in the top 4. I mean, we talked about this one, Lewis, just before we came on air, and we think there might be a little bit of an angle in for overs here with the Lazio game at minus 118. What do you think?
Yeah, I thought that'd be short of this line. Just looking at the data of the 2 teams, Lazio got the best strike rate in terms of over 2.5 goals in Serie A this season. 74% their matches have seen 3 or more goals scored this season. And if you just narrow that down to just home matches, it's 11 of 13 have seen over 2.5. So just straight away, that gives you a sort of an edge there on the market, I think, of where it's at. And then you've got to throw Udinese into the mix as well. And 8 of their last 13 have gone over 2.5. And I did see that their last 2 games have only produced 2 goals, so that was a little bit of a worry to see maybe the goals are drying up. But if you looked at the overall expected goals tally for those 2 games, they actually combined to bring out 5.5 expected goals. So I think that they're sort of underperformed according to the XG there. So if I was going to be having a bet in this game tonight, I would definitely be looking at the overs just on the raw data. I think that price is wrong.
Yeah, interesting team news as well. As far as Udinese are concerned, and this probably won't happen, but there's doubt about their keeper at the moment. They had to play their 3rd choice keeper last time out, Daniele Padelli, who's 39. He's getting on for my age because their 2nd choice keeper wasn't fit, and their 1st choice keeper, Maduka Okoye, apparently he is fit again, so he might come back in. But that's interesting to see if Udinese have to go with their 3rd choice keeper as well. He kept a clean sheet in the last game, so he's not the worst. But at 39, can he do it back to back? I don't know. And a player that myself, James, and Steve talked about on the European show, Florian Thauvin, who's having a brilliant season at the moment for Udinese. He's got 7 goals so far this season. It's his best since his Marseille days. He's plus 118 to have a shot on target, which I think we agreed was a little bit big. When it comes to shot on targets this season, he's got 20 in 24, with 1 or more in 13 of those 24. And interestingly, away from home, 8 in 11 have cashed. So plus 118, Tauvin, shot on target might be the way if you're looking for a prop bet in that one. But I must admit, I think that the overs is a decent bet, as Lewis has put up there. Off the back of European games this season, Lazio have played 8 times. In 7 of those 8, they've gone overs, including all 4 times when they've played at home. So I get the overs play, and I think it's probably a solid selection. Most of the tickets have gone on the overs, incidentally, 77%, and 51% of the money, those gone under. 80% of the money, 60% of the tickets on Lazio. We've had a $1,500 play on over 3.5 total goals at plus 245, and also a near $1,000 play on Lazio under 5.5 total corners at a short price. In terms of what you guys are looking at out there, what have you got? Effie says both teams to score an over 2.5 goals. Udinese is the team in the best form in Italy right now. Yeah, they've taken 13 points from their last 15 on offer. So certainly in terms of what we've seen recently, they're just outside of the top 10 at the minute. Just going back to the West Ham game, Ian Messina says half-time draw, not 100% certain about that one. Cree says West Ham drawable chance minus 155 is short. That's why we sort of go in quarter ball, I think, isn't it, Lewis? It's just a bit too short to have the draw fully on your side. And Rick Haley says I make money by not betting on Serie A. Well, that's one way to make sure that your profit's up there as well. But overs, we think, is the play, Lewis, for the Lazio game.
Yeah, it looks that way. It's just more of a data play more than any sort of my knowledge of Serie A or having not too an in-depth knowledge of either teams and how they're going to shape up. But just from looking at the raw data, it does look like that price is a little bit in our favour. So I think it has to be attacked.
Well, we've got a little bit more from Lewis when it comes to the Champions League in just a second. But just to cover off the games that we've got tonight, this is Espanyol versus Girona. And a little bit like the West Ham game here, I think you can get excited about Espanyol on that quarter ball handicap minus 127. Obviously, half win with the draw. Espanyol have only lost 1 of their last 7. They've scored in their last 7. They're unbeaten in 7 at home at the moment, including wins over Real Madrid and a draw against Athletic Bilbao. So they've been playing some good teams and getting positive results at home. And Girona have lost the last 4 away. Now, if you dig into that a little bit deeper, 3 of the 4 were against Milan Athletic Club and Real Madrid. So obviously they play some tough teams. But Girona are really struggling away from home at the moment. You've got to remember this is 15th versus 14th as well. It's a 4 p.m. Eastern kickoff tonight. And I think Girona on the quarter ball handicap plus a quarter at minus 127 is a play. And just one other thing that I want to mention in this game was digging into some of the player stats here. And at the minute, Javi Puado, you can see there is the favourite on the anytime goal scorer list at plus 250 to score for Espanyol. He is their top goal scorer with 8 goals. A player that we haven't listed there is a player called Joffre Casares, who's only got 2 goals so far this season. But in terms of shots on target, they're very, very similar with 10 and 9 respectively. And Joffre, spelled Jofre, if you're looking for him on the betting websites, has actually got a better percentage of shots on target per 90. He is plus 230 for 1 or more shot on target. And Javi Puado is minus 129. And I think one of the reasons, one player has scored a lot more than the other, even though the shots on targets are very, very similar. But the other reason is that Espanyol are playing with a different striker now. They are playing with Roberto Fernandez as a central striker, and Puado, who started the season as a central striker now plays on the wing. He'll play on the left. Joffre will play on the right. And I just think if you're looking at 2 players in similar positions with similar shot on target data, one of them at plus 230, one at minus 129. Take Joffre, who's plus 230 in this one. Girona switched to 3 at the back as well, and recently it's not really worked for them. They've conceded 2 in each of their last 3 games. Have a look at that. Reece says Espanyol unbeaten and at least 5 at home. Yeah, 7 is the run at the moment. Effie says both teams to score at minus 105. Both teams concede. This is true. And bookies are daring people to bet Espanyol. Girona are due for a win. Yeah, they've had some tough fixtures. There's no doubt about that. But they slipped out of the Champions League with a minimum of fuss, didn't they, Effie? But I just think, have a look at that. Any shot on target player, Joffre, and also Espanyol plus a quarter. And in terms of where the money has gone, for this game. 66% of the money, 77% of tickets on Girona, and most of the money has come on overs as well. 95% of the money, 83% of the tickets. That game is live on the BetRivers website and the BetRivers app as well. We've had $1,000 on Espanyol double chance. It is pretty sure, big minus money, but you can see why you want the draw on side. But a little bit like West Ham, you play the quarter ball, you get a little bit more value, or certainly a little bit more back. And Espanyol over 3.5 total corners, $1,000 play on that at minus 152. That's La Liga done and dusted. Let's finish with the Champions League, shall we? Tuesday and Wednesday, of course, but we've got Lewis on a Monday, so it would be remiss of me not to mention the Champions League when Lewis is holding a ticket for Paris Saint-Germain. The big question is, Lewis, are we going in again at 16-1?
Oh, I'm so tempted, Dan. I am so tempted. I think they're the best team in the competition. I know that might raise a few eyebrows because they're priced up at 16-1 here, but I think there's a really strong case to suggest that they are the best team in this competition, and plus 275 to get through this second leg at Anfield. It's so tempting. I know, because if this was just Team A versus Team B after
absolutely
after the first leg and the data that was racked up, you'd be sort of borrowing and stealing to get on at that plus 275, wouldn't you? It'd be one of the best bets you'd ever see, because this is a team that won the shot count 27-2, the XG battle 1.78 to 0.2, possession 71-29, corners 14-2, and they managed to lose the game 1-0. But this is the Liverpool and Anfield factor in at play here, isn't it? And that's probably fair enough, and that is probably the reason why I'm not getting as excited as perhaps I should be at that plus 275, because Liverpool on these nights under the lights when they've got a job to do, they normally do it. But there's more reasons, I think, here that we might be able to fade the Premier League teams at this stage and maybe later in the competition as well. Because even though we sort of become accustomed to seeing the Premier League being regarded as the highest quality league, haven't we, in Europe? But I'm not sure that's the case anymore. Just because no Premier League team made it past the quarterfinals in the Champions League or the Europa League last season. I think we're easily forgetting that. And if you're just looking at the Premier League teams last week in their knockout matches, got to be some doubts that the level of the Premier League is being overrated by the markets here, I think. Look at Liverpool, battered in PSG. Villa were very lucky to beat Club Brugge in the manner they did 3-1. That was a terrible game where Villa didn't really show up, but managed to find a way in the latter stages. Spurs, they got beaten in Alkmaar, didn't they? Man United held in Sociedad. So there is just this nagging doubt in my head that the Premier League teams are being overrated when it comes to the outright markets here, and that has to be into your thinking when you're trying to look for an angle in this PSG Liverpool game, because we've got some evidence now, I think, to suggest that PSG could be the better team on a neutral ground than Liverpool, just the way that game went. And with Liverpool so fatigued with their schedule, I would be quite devastated if PSG got knocked out. I'm on them at 18-1, because I generally believe they are the best team in this competition, and I think it'd be so unfortunate if they get knocked out at this stage. One, because of the way the draws worked out, and two, the Liverpool second leg factor at Anfield has just gone against them as well. So definitely tempted to press up on that plus 1600 in the outright instead of just backing them to qualify. Because if they manage to get through the Anfield factor, they're going to be playing Aston Villa in a quarter-final. So that's more or less a gimme, I think, for a team like PSG to get to the semi-finals. And they're going to be, if they get through this tie, they're going to be plus 500, plus 600, I think. And if they are the best team left in the competition, which I think, in my opinion, they are, and in Arne Slot's opinion, they are as well. He mentioned that after the game, that the underlying process that they've put up in this competition suggests they are the best team in the competition. So I think I'm very tempted. I'm gonna wait until tomorrow night and see how brave I am. But I am very tempted to press up on that 1600 and got to take a chance. When you're just dangling a carrot there, to my numbers, to a lot of numbers, that this is a serious PSG team, and they're that sort of price in the outright market. I know they've got to go to Anfield. I know Liverpool are Liverpool. But I'll just be kicking myself if they manage to get through tonight and do what they did in the first leg at Anfield. I'm not sure I'll be able to forgive myself, really. So I think it's a smart long-term play, but I'm very, very aware that my money could be done by the time Tuesday night evening comes around. But I think I'm going to have to back it again, Dan. Your thoughts?
Well, look. The question to you, I'll take my thoughts on that. Quick question to you is: Are you going to bet PSG at plus 285 to go through, or is the fact that you've bet them on the futures market is good enough for you? You've got enough invested. You're not going to go in terms of any sort of match plays tomorrow or just to qualify. You're already invested. Your money's already down. You don't need to. Is that what we're saying?
These are all the questions I have to ask myself when making this plan tomorrow. But I am so greedy when it comes to big price anti-posts. Dan,
5 to 4 Eastern time tomorrow. What are you going to be doing with your account?
Yeah, exactly. Open? I think I'm going to be pressing up on the outright price. I think rather than taking the qualify price, because I think you got your chance to trade out once they get through in that situation. Then you've got options, haven't you? You've still got options, and I'd rather be in that situation where you can hit a bit of a jackpot play rather than just which I think that the PSG to qualify price is a perfectly acceptable price, but being a little bit more greedy in the way that I like to attack big prices, naturally my instincts are telling me to go in again on this big price for PSG. But obviously it's a bet which could just be in the toilet by tomorrow night. So it's one of those. I'll have to make a decision tomorrow when maybe thinking a little bit more clearly about the Champions League. So I'm still very much on Premier League focus for the minute. It's Champions League starts tomorrow, doesn't it? But yeah, very tempted to press on PSG.
Yeah, this is an interesting one. I mean, PSG are plus 190 to win in the 90 minutes. They're plus 285.
That's a good bet. That's a good bet as well. Yeah, I think
plus 285 to qualify. I could take them both easily. Obviously, we're going to have all the boys talking Paris Saint-Germain, Liverpool at Anfield tomorrow. Nigel's going to be on for us. Just want to wrap up. Well, I'll tell you what I think about PSG. We were talking off air. I saw them live against Arsenal in the league phase. Didn't think they were particularly good, but they are a transformed team. Luis Enrique has got them playing in a different way. Barcola on the right, Kvaratskhelia on the left, Dembele through the middle. You asked Steve Wiss about Dembele. You'd never trust him to score. Suddenly he's scoring double hat-tricks every other week, and PSG are knocking over teams 7-0. And they're not resting players. I mean, they rested a few at the weekend, but they're knocking 3, 4, 5, 6 past teams. I think they've just got that balance right. Nuno Mendes, who had injury issues, was it last season? I mean, he's such a good fullback. And Hakimi, you could argue, is the best right back in the world at the moment. I don't know. Luis Enrique, whatever he's done in terms of galvanizing that squad, because there's enough of them there who were there last year and the year before when they were reliant on Mbappe, and prior to that, Messi and Neymar, but they just seem a more focused squad, I think.
Oh, there's a work ethic as well about them, which I love, and this is the thing that jumped out at me at that Manchester City game when they were facing elimination. If they lost that. If they got knocked out to Man City and they were 2-1 down in the game, if I believe, well, they're definitely behind in the match. And in that second half, with their backs against the wall, they really turned it on and played like a team that were going places and playing for one another, which is something that PSG haven't done in this competition for many years. I just think they're onto something special here, and it might not be this season, but I would be quite confident to state that this PSG team probably could win the Champions League over the next 2 or 3 seasons. I think they could. There's something special going on there, and is this the time to jump on this season? I think it was. But just the way the draws panned out and the way that Lady Luck went against them in the first leg, maybe this isn't their year. But they're a very, very exciting team, I think, with a huge potential.
I can't argue with any of that, and it's going to be interesting because if they do win, there could be plus 500, plus 600 for the for the Champions League title. 1 or 2 comments here before we wrap up, and we'll just remind you of Lewis's bet on the West Ham game. What have you got here? Ken Pinkett saying NASCAR is the best sports to hit on. Give us the tip then, Ken. Fazer says both teams to score over 2.5 goals in the Espanyol game. I'd probably rather play both teams to score in that one. Cree says had a great golf weekend. Did you back Russell Henley? Did you? Cree, players is next. It is. Always love the players. What else have we got here? Duncan says Inter have got to be a bet. I mean, Lewis, Inter on the other side of the draw. That's the thing, isn't it? Don't think they're great, but they're on the right side of the draw.
Unbelievable defensive output as well. What they conceded, was it 1 goal? I think they've conceded in the tournament, in the competition, in the Champions League. Yeah, they're very going to be a hard team to knock out. And you're right, if they're on the right side of the draw as well. So yeah, you'd have to get Inter on side, I think.
Yeah, Duncan giggling about Arsenal at 6-1. Well, they're going to go through to the round of to the quarterfinal, but it's Atleti or Real Madrid next, as we know. Jimmy says PSG plays so well they lost at home. Liverpool going to raise their level. That's true. Effie says, I've got 10 units on the line for Paris Saint-Germain tomorrow. Various different bets. He's across the board with that one. Ken says, recency bias, talking up Paris Saint-Germain. I get you thinking, but they've done it for longer than just that last game.
Second half against Man City. Just look at the data from the second half against Man City. Yeah. I know it's Man City, but they ran all over and created so many chances. When they put their foot down, this team could beat any team in Europe.
Adam was a bit late to the show. Says, Mr. Star said, Newcastle fan here. Hello, Adam. Always got some sensible stuff to say. Says, normally have a strong opinion pro or against Newcastle, but sitting on his hands tonight, Bowen plus 265 does look good, potentially. Nigel reminding us that the dojo is out with Neil and Nigel. Is Channers putting up any horse racing bets for anyone who wants them? We'll have to wait and see. Pat, who's down under, says, Leeds, Birmingham, Manly and Penrith for a midweek multi. Manly and Penrith. What is that rugby league?
I have no idea. I thought he was talking. I thought he was talking Peter Manley darts. So is he back? Is Peter Manley back? But obviously not. That's yeah. Don't know what Manley is. Peter Manley's my only shot there.
It might be rugby league. I think it is. Hello to you, Pat. Hope you're doing well. That is your lot. Nigel says that he's giving us an 8-1 bet for Cheltenham tomorrow. So if you can get on the horse racing at Cheltenham, and Ken says it's NRL, Australian Rugby League. So so watch out for the dojo, which is out. Obviously, we'll have Nigel and Steve on the Champions League show tomorrow. Some bets coming away. Before we wrap up, though, Lewis, here your plays on West Ham. You've got one sort of more regular play, and you've got one little mini parlay on the fouls. Just reminders of those two before we go. Yeah,
plus 2.5 Asian line for West Ham. I think minus 110. I think that's a great bet, to be honest. We only lose our stake if Newcastle wins. We're more or less taking on Newcastle there. We make money if West Ham draw as well there. So we're still making half the stakes profit. So like that bet. There's also the same game parlay, which I quite like. Souček over 1.5 fouls and Edson Alvarez over 1.5 fouls. They're going to be getting amongst it against that midfield three of Newcastle who draw fouls for absolute fun. Quite like the overs in the Lazio game.
Yeah,
and then we just got to press up on PSG, have we? But these are decisions I have to make when push comes to shove tomorrow. But very excited to see how this PSG team do at Anfield, and hopefully they can keep my bets alive.
Let's hope so. Plenty of us betting. Yusuf says Newcastle money line looks good, Dan, isn't it? We're the other side, Yusuf. We are West Ham. I'm going to split my stakes. Money line plus 230. Going to play the quarter ball handicap at minus 110 with Lewis as well. That's our particular picks for tonight. Duncan, thanks for joining us. Thanks to everyone who's tuned in today. Slightly earlier time, of course, if you're in the UK or Europe, but still 11 a.m. Eastern as it is throughout the weekend, the remainder of March. That is your lot from myself, Dan Roebuck, and from Lewis Jones. Have a good betting night tonight. We're back again tomorrow, 11 a.m. Eastern.